I'm Terry Cooke. Happy New Year. We're back with Hamilton's Vital Signs, and we're going to talk about a good news Hamilton story today, which is the profound effect of the film industry in Hamilton, both in terms of the opportunities it's providing for Hamiltonians and in terms of its impact on the local economy. And it also has focused some international acclaim here because great filmmakers like Del Toro continue to visit and sing the praises of Hamilton. I've got two people who actually did a Vital Signs chat with me on Ottawa Street about a month ago, and we're reprising that here. Nathan Fleet, the Executive Director of the Hamilton Film Festival, and Debbie Spence from the Planning and Economic Development Department, City of Hamilton, where you do film liaison work. Always like to start with some biographical stuff to help the audience understand how each of us came to do the work that we're doing. And I'm going to start with you, Debbie. Tell us a bit about your path in life and career, and then a bit about the work you're doing now.
Sure. So my background is actually in psychology, so that's always useful in a lot of areas.
Who says a liberal arts degree is useless?
Exactly.
It's a guy who has a couple of them.
And then I started at the city in communications,
Yep.
and then worked my way into economic development. So I've got an economic development certification, so understanding businesses and then workforce,
Yep.
and then made my way into creative industries.
And
So that's how I kind of landed in the portfolio of film, music, and fashion, but also includes visual and applied arts, and written and performance.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Nathan.
Well, I always bring my story back into my teen years when I was at Delta High School. So I grew up in...
Other than Westdale, the second best high school in the city, I
That's
think.
right. Yeah. So it was there where I really kind of developed my, I guess, skill in the arts. I was a musician, but I didn't really have much direction. Like I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I was in a band, and I knew I loved playing, and it was my drama class, my drama teacher, that really kind of set the spark in me that it could be possible to continue doing this kind of thing. And
What was his name?
J.P. Morrison, Mr. Morrison, and he was a fabulous teacher. And he was putting on a play, and he said, "What do you want to do, Nathan?" I was like, "Just put me backstage. I'll open the curtains and turn on the lights," kind of thing. And he said, "You're going to be the lead in the play."
Yeah.
So I wasn't quite sure how to take that, and he was serious, and he made me the lead of the play, and it kind of changed my way of thinking about the arts. That
Well,
someone
what was the
believed
play?
in me. It was one that he had written. It was a Remembrance Day play, and from that point on, I just this spark went off, and I wanted to know everything about the arts and rehearsal and the importance of working together with people, and that the fact that you could create something out of nothing and affect so many people all at the same time. And then that was it. I was hooked. I wanted to get into music. I wanted to get into film, and that really kind of set me off.
That having been said, you're in Hamilton, which at the time was not a place that you would think about fruitful career opportunities in this sector. So how did you jump from a kid who was interested and inspired by the arts and
Yep.
drama and film and music to the work you're doing now?
Yeah, so right after high school, I went to Mohawk College to study music. I got my diploma, and then I wanted to work as a composer in film. But there were no opportunities. There was really not a lot around. All my film studies were done in Toronto, so I went to Toronto and took workshops out there. All my independent film screenings, this was like in the mid to late 90s, I had to get on a bus and go to Toronto to see independent films made by people like me at the time. And then that's where the opportunity came through the Staircase Theatre. They started to show local movies, and they had a little film festival going, and they asked me if I wanted to get involved, taking tickets at the door. And it was at that moment where I thought, okay, this could happen. Like, instead of me always going to Toronto, we could build something here in Hamilton. And that was back in early 2000 when they were starting to run screenings, and just slowly from there, it just started to build, and I started to get connected with more filmmakers in town. And then the Factory Media Center showed up, where you could rent cameras in Hamilton, so I didn't have to get on a bus to go to Toronto anymore. So, selfishly, my idea back then was, bring the industry to Hamilton instead of me having to go everywhere else to seek that stuff out. And I thought, how do you do that? Well, film festival's a perfect way to do that. You invite guests to come in, and then I get to interact with a lot of people. So now, with thousands of filmmakers I've met over the last 15 years or so, all around the world just because of this, little tiny film festival that started in a 60-seat theater at the Staircase has now turned into something really kind of special and is affecting the local film industry as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's try and quantify this a bit, because Debbie, you've got some updated stats, but there are an extraordinary number of productions now that are in fact based here. And I guess the question is, tell us a little bit about the scale of that. As I understand it, the direct spend is somewhere in the order of how many million dollars a year?
In 2018 it was 50 million, so 50 million, and we're probably expecting about the same. We haven't fully calculated the numbers for 2019, but I would say it's probably about the same, maybe even a little bit more. And then over the last 5-6 years, we've been pretty consistent in terms of the number of permits and the number of productions. They shot up 50% from 2017 to 2018. So in 2018 we saw 811 film permits, and so that was a double or 50% increase from the year before. And Hamilton is the second busiest location for filming in Ontario. So it's pretty special for the city.
I'm assuming after Toronto.
Correct. Yep, correct.
So to each of you, start with you, Debbie. So what's happened and what's the attraction here?
So certainly we do benefit because we're physically located close to Toronto. So a lot of times there will be productions that are filming in Toronto and we're a secondary location, or kind of started out that way. Also, there's an additional tax incentive from the provincial government if you come, and Hamilton is the first kind of city outside of the GTA where you get this additional tax credit. So that's helpful. But also what kind of keeps things going is the diversity of locations and the people that live here and the businesses that are here that really attract. Hamilton can be gritty, but it can also be a really beautiful location. We've got urban kind of settings, and then we've also got some beautiful natural settings as well.
Same question to you, because you've seen it in the period in which there wasn't a lot happening here, and then you've watched the incremental development. Why here? And then second question to you, because you work in this business every day, is talk about the skills and attributes of the people here and how that plays out, the different roles and opportunities that present themselves because of what's happened.
So one of the things that, especially currently, I find is that everything that Debbie was just saying, and to add to that, when the productions are here to get access to the tax credit and to get access to the amazing locations, to save money, they want to hire people here. They want to use facilities that are here. They want to rent from here, so they don't have to make the trek back and forth, or they don't have to put people up in hotels, that kind of thing. So they're looking for local. They're constantly looking for people to kind of fill out their cast and crew as local. So that does happen quite a bit. And in terms of the talent, like there's so much raw talent in the city all across the arts. Hamilton's such a hard-working town, and that's also in our artists, is that everybody's so hardworking and they're constantly working on their skills, and then they rise to the top in the city. And then when these productions come to town, they're saying, we're looking for who's the best cinematographer in Hamilton, and you can instantly say who that person is because they've been working so hard within the city, and they just start to shine. And that happens all the way from, whether it's a director, all the way down to someone who might be a great background person that, is always shows up on time and is just genuinely interested in the film industry. So there's a lot of people in town that have kind of been waiting for their moment, if that makes any sort of sense, They've gathered their skills. They're just ready. They're hungry to do something, and now they're being discovered, which is great. This is really, really fantastic.
We've only got a couple of minutes to break, but I want to just ask about, this is partly self-interest because we've had a role in the restoration of the Westdale Theatre with an amazing volunteer group that led that effort. The Playhouse, obviously, privately owned, but fills a different but somewhat similar niche. How does having places that can actually both show film, independent film or film that wouldn't show up at your local Cineplex, and also stage events that are related to community and art affect kind of the ecosystem?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, certainly it's an important part of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll kind of pass it on to Nathan in terms of, because you're a little more familiar with that, but it's a key part of the whole life cycle in terms of film.
Yeah, and I always, people talk about the 3 Ps, the pre-production, production, and post-production.
Yeah.
I add the 4th one, which is presentation, because nobody makes something to not show anybody.
Sure.
And to have the Westdale and the Playhouse, I mean, that's almost the end result of all the work that people put into it, is that you go and see it in the theater. So that's a huge part of the movie business, is exhibition.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have 2 theaters to show this in, and it's getting more and more important that they exist, because in the multiplexes you get 4 screens of Star Wars, 2
Right.
screens of Jumanji, and maybe a kids movie and maybe a drama. But with Playhouse and Westdale, like, it's wide open for what they can show, and the fact that we have 2 in the city now where we can go and see these movies. And then with the Westdale, like their initiative this year, like the Hamilton Film Festival, as part of their community thing, we're going to be showing a movie every month that has some local connection to it, with local makers, where you can go and talk to them and learn about it. So that's so important. We couldn't do that at a Cineplex.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that at these bigger venues. So the fact that they exist is huge.
Yeah, and as a film lover, I got to say, I'm so relieved not to be driving to Waterloo or to the Varsity or other places in Southern Ontario, because for many years, so many of the great films just bypassed this market, right? And now we have, just a luxury.
And I go to both, and they're always full of people.
Yeah.
You could go to the Playhouse on a Monday at 9:00, and there'll be 60 or 70 people there. You'll go to the Westdale, the same thing, and you'll get 70 or 80 people at a
great
screen.
sign. It's a great
It's
sign.
fantastic to see. Right, that's what gives me hope that exhibition is not over for independent filmmakers. For sure.
We've got to go to a break, but Debbie Spence, City of Hamilton film liaison person, and Nathan Fleet from the Hamilton Film Festival. We're talking about the film industry in Hamilton, and we will be right back. Thanks, guys. And we're back. Terry Cooke, you're watching Hamilton's Vital Signs. Nathan Fleet and Debbie Spence. We're talking about the film industry in Hamilton and the many ways in which it contributes to the vibrancy of the place and the way it's changed over the years. So Nathan, I'm going to come back to you, because you've got something called Lights Camera Hamilton. That's a nonprofit that you set up. Tell us why and what you're doing with it.
So Lights Camera Hamilton actually started right here on Cable 14 6 years ago as a little segment. They brought me on to talk about what was happening in the local film industry. So we said, let's call it Lights Camera Hamilton. And then from there, kind of simultaneously through the Hamilton Film Festival, I was getting 4 or 5 calls a week for people looking for, I need someone to do hair and makeup, I need an old barn, and they were asking for all these things, and I just didn't have time to kind of facilitate that. And so I set up a Facebook group page called Lights Camera Hamilton, and I said, just go post your lookings there, just say I'm a producer looking for this, and then that, 200 members, 300 members, and it went up and up, and now I think we're almost at 1,800 members.
Wow.
So just last year, September, almost 6 years to when Lights Camera Hamilton started, put a group together, and we said we need to really kind of turn this into something special, and started a not-for-profit organization. Everyone that's on the board works in the film industry, so we're all very aware of what's going on, what the needs are. And so from that, we're going to be creating be a new website, some new initiatives that include reaching out to production companies that are here and connecting them to as many businesses and as many local talent as we have. And we're just going to kind of slowly build that. So we have 1,800 members already. If we can connect the productions that are coming into town with those 1,800 people and get them to start thinking about local. Every time they come to Hamilton, we will create initiatives that will make it attractive for them to buy their paint here, buy their lumber, their fabric, their rent their cars, their temporary fencing, anything like that we might not think would be interested or might be attached to the film industry is.
Right.
So we always think that it's just film studios and restaurants and places where they eat, but they're looking for a lot of things. And if they can do that right in Hamilton, that's really what we want to do. We want to get them just to think about local when they're here.
Perfect segue, because obviously a big focus of the Economic Development Department is how do we create assessment growth? How do we promote businesses? How do we make sure that we're contributing to a positive economy for jobs. And I want you to just talk to us about the residual economic benefits of all of this production and film activity.
Yeah, so as Nathan's talking about, that's part of that direct spend, and the more that we can get local businesses and local talent to be part of that equation, and for productions to know before they come here, before they make the decision to film in Hamilton, that they're going to work with costumers, with wardrobe, even with porta toilets, all those kinds of things. We want it to be local.
Yeah.
And then we've seen, in terms of businesses expand, existing businesses in Hamilton expand because they see the opportunities and because they see those gaps. We saw a lot happen in 2019, and then we've also seen some new businesses come here and some new exciting things where we're looking at where's those gaps, where are those opportunities. We have about over 900 businesses that work in film in Hamilton. And then we have over 9,000 people that live in Hamilton and that work in the film industry.
Wow.
So we want more of those people to not have to commute to other places. So when we're able to get productions here, that's kind of a little bit of the starting point. And then we hear things from businesses locally. 85% of their business is from local film productions. So that's really fantastic. We've just got some numbers from hotels. So the Sheraton Hamilton, in 2019, it was 733,000 just in hotel rooms.
Wow.
So that doesn't include restaurants. That doesn't include, anything else that they would have. And I think it was about 5,800 and odd room nights just at Sheraton. So we try to, when we're kind of looking at that 50 million direct spend, we try to give those very specific individual examples of, so that helps people understand how to break down that 50 million.
And that it's real.
And that it's real. So it's not a multiplier. These are actual dollars because we treat them as visitors.
Yeah.
Productions that come here. And then importantly is businesses, right? So how does that help with the non-residential tax assessment for the rest of the city? And then we look forward to, in terms of what else can we do from a city standpoint, because we assist productions when they come here. So as Nathan's saying, they're looking for locations, they're looking for a certain look. And so it's really helpful when there are organizations like Lights Camera Hamilton that can assist the productions and kind of when they're at their scouting. And we like to attract TV series are really great because they come here for a number of times over the year. And then hopefully if they're renewed, they come back for a second, third season. You'll see that in things like Umbrella Academy. Second season filmed a lot in Hamilton. And then Nurses just filmed in their first season on, I think, Global TV. They filmed a lot in Hamilton. So hopefully they get renewed for season 2. And so Hamilton is on almost every platform in terms of different channels.
And I watched Umbrella Academy filming in the parking lot across from my office at Bay and King, and it was amazing because it was a civil rights suit, school integration, Confederate flag, and it was Hamilton poised as the American South. I'm going to say vintage early 60s. And fascinating just as a student of film to watch that happen, right? And I was enthralled for a day.
And then they will have improvements to interiors and exteriors that if the property owner wants that to remain, they can remain. So it actually, productions often say that they want to leave communities and neighborhoods better than when they came in. So that's, again, it's a lasting kind of thing. We've had productions, they give donations to nonprofits and charity organizations as well. So it's not just the the shiny kind of what you can see on TV and in the movie theater. It's also what actually sticks around after the fact as well.
Unfortunately, like everything else, the time goes quickly here, and we're winding down. But I always like to finish with, so where do we go from here? And in an ideal world, what could we do better or more of to build the momentum that's obviously happening around the film industry in Hamilton? And I'll go to you first, Nathan, and then we'll give you the last couple of minutes, Debbie.
I think what you're doing with this is wonderful because it gives people an idea of what's going on. If I was to hear any complaints, it's that, it's just Hollywood coming to town and then they leave their garbage and then they go away. And then I say it's not that at all. Like there's a different story that you're not getting. And the fact that you have us on here to tell this is a great way to let the general public know kind of what's going on and the impact that it has. In terms of what's going on in the city, I think there's a lot of things going on the right track, like the studio building, that sort of thing, and that will attract other businesses to kind of come around. And I think one of the big things is education. So if we have some programs set up in Hamilton, some dedicated film programs, which I know is in the works, I think that's going to be a really big step towards building the skill that we have already in the city, where they can take their courses here and then leave school and work in the city. So I think that's going to be a huge step, is education.
Yeah, and frankly, given that the Community Foundation spends a lot of its time and capital supporting efforts to open channels to higher education and to career paths, especially for kids who are lower income, racialized, indigenous kids who have historically not done well. You look at this and it isn't just about the glamorous on the stage or in front of the camera jobs. It is so many other things that involve real work, that pay decent wages and provide opportunities for kids like you from Delta High School.
That's right. Yeah,
go
I
on and do good
I
things.
teach film camps for kids, and you know, when the kid has never held a boom before, does it, and their eyes light up when they have the headphones on, and they can hear sound from across the room. Like that can set them off on a whole new path, right? And I see that happening, and it's important that we bring that to the city for sure.
Yeah, magical stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Last 2 minutes to you. What else or what more could we be doing?
So I'd say probably three things. The first is kind of picking up on what Nathan's saying, is that education and awareness and a voice from industry. So more industry actually sharing those good news stories, because as much as it's great that you hear it from, you know, city bureaucrat, it's probably better if you hear it from the actual industry themselves.
Right. They
They have the expertise, and they're the ones that are the businesses or, you know, in the productions. The second would be workforce development. We want to get a better sense of, we understand that there's a shortage in Ontario and in Canada, but what is that exact shortage? And we're even starting in terms of the city to look at a partnership with one of the film unions and the city itself, because the city has some money to work with a small group of youth, marginalized youth, and to get them experience in whatever careers. We've said let it be film, and so that's really exciting in terms of to get that experience, and again get a better understanding, and to get people, get more people that live in Hamilton that are working in the industry to not have to commute or commute less. And then the third thing would be in terms of on the business development side. So we want to support those businesses that are existing, because there's a lot of existing businesses in Hamilton that have done some really great things to kind of build that momentum and to be there for the industry, and then to help them expand, but also bring new businesses here and to determine those opportunities, to keep that growing, and to let people know within the industry, Hamilton is, you know, a place to be, both for locations, but also to bring your business and stay here longer term. So I would say those three things. So
thank you.
But
Great,
exciting for sure.
Great note to finish on. And bureaucrat is not a pejorative in my in my vocabulary. Some of my best friends are public servants,
There you
and
go.
the work you do is important. So thank you. Debbie Spence from the City of Hamilton, Nathan Fleet from the Hamilton Film Festival. Thanks for all you're doing for Hamilton
Yeah,
and
thank
for
you
the
for
film
your-
industry. And we will continue this conversation to track the
Great.
the growing impact of film in Hamilton. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm Terry Cooke. You've been watching Hamilton's Vital Signs. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but we hope you'll join us again next month. And as always, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and be part of this conversation. Take care. See you soon.